And we're live.
You didn't do a song.
Oh, is that the thing now? I have to start with a song.
I mean, it's been like
I'm going down.
No, you actually don't have to do that. I'm kidding.
Nope. That was just a joke. But
that was loud. Actually.
It was. I didn't know it was going to be that loud.
I didn't know.
I have no control over my own voice.
No,
I open up and it comes out of me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So what do we want to talk about first? Do we want to even you know what? I had a thought, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
So I recently, one of my best friends in the entire world, she finally broke up with her. Here we go. You know,
what?
I want everyone to understand something. This is a PSA to everybody. If this applies to all ages, it never gets less complicated when you have multiple best friends because everyone will always get offended.
They're I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to have.
Exactly.
There's a best, and then there's really good and close.
And then you have to explain, and then to each and every one, you have to somehow diminish the other one's friendship. But it's kind of, so you're basically just two-faced forever.
Or you have to compartmentalize. It's this is my best friend, but our relationship is different because I've known them since childhood or high school. This is my best friend that I met later in life and we do blah, 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 and see more often. And this is my best friend from whatever. So
yeah. So basically you have to immediately make excuses and and
qualifications and
actually here on the ladder, it's super.
You're just on different ladders. You're not.
Let's see, even that. So then everyone's well, who's higher on the ladder? It's just completely toxic. So
you're more of a step stool and I'm on the ladder.
Oh man. So my point, anywho, I'm kidding. My point is that one of my best friends recently finally broke up with with her trash. She just finally lost all this weight and got rid of all this baggage. And I won't say his name.
She broke up with you just.
I think she broke up with her ex-boyfriend.
You just said she broke up with her trash and lost all this weight, and I'm just that's very unclear.
I first of all, I was getting there.
Okay.
I was gonna bring it all together, tie it all up. I was gonna get to the fact that she broke up with a boy.
Oh.
But now my joke's ruined.
Well,
so thank you.
To be fair, it wasn't really hitting. So.
To be fair, I was 10, 15 seconds in because when I first started, I got very interrupted about who's your best friend. So, oh God, my whole story's just ruined.
How does it feel?
I mean, it would feel more justified if I was 20 minutes later hadn't said what happened yet.
Oh, okay.
That would have been oh. Justified. Now you're oh, you're telling a story. I'm going to interrupt you immediately. How does that feel? You can see it in my eyes. This guy commented and said that he could see in my eyes that Anna was insufferable and that it was just true all the time. And I really am just that comment has honestly just changed my brain chemistry because it was so serious and so deep. He could see it in my eyes.
He said it was on the reel that posted on YouTube where I said, I know that I'm insufferable sometimes. Mm-hmm. And he said, replace sometimes with all the time. And I'm damn, you know me in real life? Wow, that's wild. And then he said that he could see it in your eyes and on your face that it's true. And I'm just okay.
That's really a compliment to me. Because that just means I am a great actress and
you
just felt that way.
Really expressive.
Yeah.
You know? You just emote so well.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you finding me insufferable all the time.
All the time, clearly. That was so fucking funny. I was okay, what? So, anyway, one of my best friends broke up with her boyfriend. And he was garbage, trash, toxic, horrible, hated him. And if he ever sees this, he knows exactly who he is. And I don't give a fuck. If you are watching this, you're fucking trash and I hate you and I don't care. I don't even care that that's toxic. I don't care that you shouldn't let people I hate him. I don't care to try to not. It's way more energy actually for me to try to act like I don't. But this got me thinking though. This is a question to anybody who has ever been the best friend of somebody who's in a toxic relationship. When they finally leave and they're finally broken up.
And it's for good.
And it's actually done.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find yourself low-key being like, oh, damn, it's over? Because like they normally, if you're the best friend, they hate you too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, dude was like obsessed with me. Like literally, like I'm Mariah Carey and he was the guy in her music video from Obsessed. Why are you so obsessed with me? And so at this point, I'm like, oh.
Do you miss like the toxic back and forth?
I hated him so much, and I have like all this other pent up rage in my life.
That was an outlet.
It was like, yeah, it was a nice outlet to be like, why don't you fucking eat shit, you piece of human actual garbage? So like now I don't have that.
So what do we do with it?
Yeah. So I'm like, do you guys like? Does anyone else ever find themselves in a position where you're like, oh, damn, well that's done, and I mean it needed to be done, but you're like, well now that's also because in a way, like when you're the best friend of somebody in a toxic relationship, you're kind of in a toxic relationship, so you're like, I mean I'm glad it's over because like trash central, but you're like, oh well, I mean now I'm also out of this because I don't have to help with responses or, you know, convince her that he's actual like human waste, which sometimes was just fun to be like that mean and to be that fucking just actual like toxic yourself when you know you're like, it is so hard to always just be like, no, I'm going to be a good person and I'm going to say the right thing. I don't want to. Sometimes I just want to be a fucking cunt. Like, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and at least you're taking out on somebody
who deserves it.
He's
literally trash.
Whether it's like direct or indirect, right? Because he doesn't necessarily know all the stuff that you're saying about him to her.
Oh, he knows.
I mean,
he knows
verbatim.
Well,
like, is she going back to him saying like, well,
no, I would tell him myself sometimes. So you know, that's why he really hated me. I don't care.
Yeah,
I just don't care.
So we're back to the true question: is where do you put that now?
Yeah,
where do you focus that like rage?
Yeah, like where are you supposed to do with that? I guess I could go to a rage room. But there's just really something about really giving it to somebody, like going in, saying the most heinous shit ever that deserves it. And it just feels good. I know you're supposed to act like it doesn't, but it just does, actually.
I mean, every hero needs a villain or an arch nemesis or somebody that they can like the back and forth
You know, that
with.
actually, like, I had heard, like, you know, you might be the villain in someone's story. And I was like, yes. I know whose story I'm the villain in. Like, I know it. And I don't know. So I'm just like, you ever find yourself almost missing him? Like, I don't miss him, but I definitely miss, like, I don't miss anything. I guess that's not correct. But you ever just find yourself going, oh, I mean, I'm glad that's done, but man, I just had a stan in a way. He was obsessed with me.
A stand?
A stan.
Oh. I heard, yes, swear to God, you said stand, and I was like, what?
I had a stan. And like in a horrible way. I mean, he was like, he'll act like he wasn't scared of me, but he was. And I didn't even live there. Like, could you imagine if I lived there? Bye. Goodbye. Yeah.
Anytime, I guess maybe I just don't get that involved in my friends' like romantic relationships, especially when they're like not going good or like I don't like the other person, because I'm just like, if I don't have to interact with you, I'm not going to waste my time and energy. And then also it just gets really tiring and draining to hear about it all the time. Like hear about all the crap and the like shitty treatment and stuff. And it's like, can you just like stop being dumb and leave this person? Like, and obviously I know that toxic relationships
you ableist.
What the fuck ever. Fuck me. Oh, I'm such a horrible person because I'm real tired of hearing about your shitty, toxic, abusive relationship.
Just leave. You're horrible. You know, canceled. You're canceled. You're so canceled. You hate women. You're actually anti-feminist.
That's a really interesting conversation to get into, which we won't. We don't have to get into it too much. But I do think that some people, you know, I think when you read some of these like hot takes on the internet, right? When people give, you know, these very short, succinct sort of like summations of like what your actions or thoughts about a particular situation or your role within it, what that says about you and how it makes you either a horrible person or a good person. I think that's really stupid. I think that it's too like black and white. It's too this or that. It's too binary. Coincidentally, ironically, too binary. Because I've seen some takes on the internet where it's say you do have this scenario where, you have a friend who's in a toxic, abusive relationship or whatever, and you are having to be there for that person. There's some people that say, you need to be there every single time your friend wants to vent or talk about it or whatever, because if you they partially are not being in an abusive relationship, I guess in that way, it's hard to escape it. It's kind of a cycle thing. And so you can, on average, I think people that are in abusive relationships on average attempt to leave the relationship 2 or 3 times before they're successful. And so I get the perspective of you should be there for your friends and you should listen to them no matter how often they complain about their relationship or how often they need to talk about it or how often, you have to sit there and hear about how shitty they're being treated and how they stay in this relationship. And it is frustrating, right? But so I get that. And, if at any point you say, I can't continue to listen to this, or you try to like distance yourself from that friend, or even if you outright tell them, listen, either you need to leave this relationship or we can't talk about it anymore, because it's not good for me. If you do that and institute that kind of like boundary, then it's like, oh, you're a shitty friend. And, how dare you not have empathy for this person in the abusive relationship?
Yeah. I mean, it's just difficult for sure.
But then on the flip side, you have the, it's like, at what point do you institute that barrier and boundary of like, at some point I have to take care of my own mental well-being and my own emotional health, and having to constantly hear about this situation. It's like, it's super frustrating because there's only so much you can say and do to help this person that you genuinely care about. But then it's like, at the end of the day, they have to make the choice to do it. Again, but then at what point do you institute a barrier? Are you a shitty person or not a shitty person for saying like, I just can't do this anymore?
Yeah, it's very, very tricky to navigate because the scariest thing about the toxic relationships is that you do get isolated. And then the second you're isolated, you're not hearing other people and you're not like able to get other perspective, or you're not having people put things into perspective for you, or you're not feeling supported. And so the second that you don't have any kind of support system, you're even more vulnerable to stay in that relationship. But I mean, the flip side is being that support system is it's hard. It is really hard. It is very hard to watch someone you love and care about go through these horrible things. It's hard to see how they get treated. And it's difficult when you don't feel that way about somebody to understand why they would stay. It's very, very hard. But I think, that's where empathy has to come into play. And it does get very exhausting. And I mean, and I wouldn't act like for a second that doesn't put a rift in your relationship with your friend, because it definitely did for a while. And now I would say that, that's definitely not like that anymore. But it does get to a point where you're just like, this is actual trash though. Like there's literally nothing to hold on to at this point. And then, you do start to get a little resentful and a little irritated and angry because you're just like, this literally ruins my whole day too now. Like, and that's what I mean by you are in a toxic relationship at this point, because then your relationship with your friend starts to become slightly toxic because it's difficult to be someone's support system for a situation that is just horrible. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not fun. And it is difficult to know how to do it or when to do it, because you're always scared that like, well, if I do this, what's going to happen? Like, yeah, I don't know. So it's definitely difficult to navigate, but which I think is a great segue into what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, navigating difficult relationships.
Navigating toxic, difficult relationships.
So if you don't know, what is Harry and Meghan? Is that the name of it? The docu-series that is out on Netflix?
Meghan and Harry and Meghan.
I think it's H&M, so I think it's Harry and Meghan, which to me is weird because I always think like Meghan or Prince Harry and Meghan. I don't know. Anyway, irrelevant. So on Netflix, the docu-series H&M, Harry and Meghan.
Mm-hmm.
We have both watched through episode 3. You're a little bit past that,
Yeah.
but we decided that me watching all 6 episodes in one day was unrealistic.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna do a dive into the first 3 episodes, and I'm gonna kind of guide the conversation a little bit since you're kind of like, I don't really remember where episode 3 ends.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Some of the bleed over.
Yeah, pretty much. And since you just watched it,
Yeah.
so.
So where to start? So I guess the first 3 episodes focus on Prince Harry's upbringing in the royal family and kind of what it was like growing up as a royal and the role the paparazzi played in his life, his mother's life, and ultimately untimely death. And then it goes into kind of him meeting Meghan and the beginning of their relationship and how they kind of had to keep it under wraps for a little bit. And then their relationship being exposed to the whole world. And again, then the role the paparazzi played in their relationship. And then it was, it went more into kind of the royal life.
Meghan's upbringing was too also.
Yeah.
Yeah. They went into her upbringing.
Yeah, they did. I feel like it wasn't a ton though. I guess they did. I don't know.
I think you got what you needed to know.
Yeah.
pretty much.
Just enough for context.
Yeah.
And then so it kind of went into her being thrust into the royal life and kind of having to learn things on the fly, and Harry not even knowing how to explain certain things because being a woman in the royal family is different from being a man in the royal family.
Yeah.
And like the role that you play and the expectations placed upon you and certain things you have to consider that the men don't necessarily have to consider. So that was really interesting. And then it went in episode 3 ends it's leading up to their wedding.
Yeah.
And so it ends like literally just before their wedding when Meghan's father ends up in the hospital, supposedly. I'm still unsure if he actually is in the hospital.
Yeah.
And they find out that his phone has been compromised, that someone is texting them Meghan was like, this is not how my father texts. And I don't think that this is him. And she couldn't really get in touch with him or speak to him. So that's kind of where episode 3 leaves off. So there's a couple different topics that we wanted to get into and kind of explore.
Yeah.
That this docuseries brought up and questions that we both have. Because at first I wasn't really interested in watching it because I'm not one of those people obsessed with the royal family. They're like my mother, obsessed with Princess Diana, like not obsessed like weird, but just like any sort of like movie, biopic, documentary, like book. She loves reading about that stuff. And you know, I've talked to my mom about it before, and it kind of brought up the question of like, is there any sort of family in the history of like the US that you could like draw a parallel between them and the royal family? And talking to my mom about it, she said that the closest she can think of would be like the Kennedys.
That's what I would say.
And you know, Jacqueline Kennedy, you could draw a parallel between her and Princess Diana.
Yeah.
And
I mean, to a very, very small degree, but yeah, I think that's the only thing we could really even compare it to in the sense of just what she went through. But even then, only somewhat. It's still not that similar.
Not even necessarily what she went through, but in terms of like their status within our society and our social hierarchy as a country, you know, as a whole.
Yeah.
And that's like the closest thing you can compare it to. And like you said, it's apples and oranges. They're both fruits, but that's about all they have in common, really.
Yeah.
And so that's really, I guess the first point I kind of wanted to get into was what the royal family means in the context of the UK and their history and their society and their people, and how we just don't get it at all.
We don't. Like it's so difficult for me to understand. And so like we've talked about, like my boss is British, and so it is interesting to get that perspective, because we really we do not have anything like that over here that we just follow without question, that we adore like that. Like honestly, if you think about it, America was built upon hell no. You know what I mean? Like we were
it's
like
anti-monarchy.
Like we were literally like absolutely fucking not. And we broke away so strongly, and we've really held that attitude all throughout history. So it's very difficult as an American to really understand like the adoration that people have for the family, but especially even looking at like their role in politics. You're like, what do they do? And it's not an insult. It's like I genuinely cannot wrap my mind around it, because we did not grow up with anything like that. Even the president, we're like,
yeah, Yeah. So the whole concept of the monarchy and why it even exists and why it even was, began. I mean, if you look into the history of it, the role of any monarch, they're basically saying, I have a right to rule this land and the people who live on this land because of God, because of, my bloodline, and God decided for whatever reason that my blood and my bloodline were destined to rule. And that literally it's the right to rule from God.
I just knew about the bloodline thing. I didn't know anything about God.
That's, I mean, because if you strip away the, I guess if you're looking at it, if you take away the religion element of it, right? What other reason is this family the chosen one?
Shit if I know. I mean, truth be told, it's not even the right. I mean, if you're going by bloodline wise, I mean, that's not even the bloodline that should be ahead of everything, because I don't know if you know or not, Princess Elizabeth, or don't come for me. Queen Elizabeth, her father, his brother was the rightful king, but he gave it away because he wanted to go marry somebody who he couldn't marry. And so that's the only reason that this family, this particular branch of the bloodline is even, in the position that they're in. So the whole thing is just so like bizarre anyway.
They're also, I believe, of German descent.
I have no clue.
Which is, I mean, it goes back into this whole complex thing about like the royals and in Europe and all the different claims to the English throne and the Hamburgs in Germany and all the princes, and everyone was a prince in Germany, and it's a whole thing. But basically the the idea that this one particular family, if you start to really look into why are they royal? Like, why do they get to have the royal title and hold this position in society? It's, the right to rule through God. And it's, if you start to get into the nitty gritty of it, it's very like a tenuous sort of like not strong enough logic and reason that they should still exist. But the reason that they do still exist is because of
they bring in so much money.
They are an institution, right? In and of themselves. They, like you said, they bring in so much money through tourism, because people do grow up, with the prince and princess and kings. I mean,
let's be honest. Like, even though I don't get it, I would love to go to London and then see those guys in the red coats and like seeing like someone that is perceived as a royal. You're just like, oh, that's bizarre, especially for us, because we don't get it. We don't have anything like that here. Like, honestly, if people see the president, he's got a solid chance of getting something thrown at him, rather than us being like, oh my gosh, hi. Some people are like, no, fuck you, we don't give a fuck. Like, it's just such a concept we don't get.
Yeah, and it's different even from like a celebrity, right? Because it's like celebrity is more like you work to get this position. Royalty, you are born, and that's just it. You're special, you're other, you're separate from everyone else just by being born.
They're above. They're just, like you said, by being born, they're just different. They're like literally just above you for whatever purpose and reason, and it's just weird.
Even Beyonce has to curtsy to the queen, which is, it feels wrong.
No,
it feels wrong somehow. So yeah, this whole sort of, they do bring in a lot of tourism, and they sell a lot of merchandise to do with royalty and all that jazz. And so they are an institution. And I mean, especially for Queen Elizabeth, she was one of the longest reigning monarchs in the history of history, right? So she was on the throne for what, like 70 years?
Yeah,
so
she became queen. She was 26, I think.
Yeah, and so she was through generations. Generations of people have lived and died in the UK that knew her as their queen. So for a lot of people, it's like, for my entire life, for my parents'
it's like
entire
practically
life.
For everybody. It's gonna the only people that would know different are people her age.
Yep,
that's pretty much it.
And she died in her 90s, so there weren't, a lot of
no one
people,
knows anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows anybody else. Like, that's just like,
or even if they did, it's now, for the majority of my life, she has been the queen, right?
Yeah,
or she had been. So it's this whole, like, it's like a monolith almost. It's when you rule for 70 years and you're a constant through so many different wars and through so much other change going on in the world. Through, she was the queen and the figurehead kind of their country through the turn of the 21st century, through the invention and of the internet and the iPhone, and through all this other stuff even way before then. So, world wars. So it's I understand to a degree that, it would be the same if we had a president that had been in office for 70 years. It's, that's a, God forbid. But, that's like
we would have done insurrected that.
Yeah.
We would have January 6th that out of there. Everybody would have got together at that point. That's straight up the American way is no.
With a quickness.
We'd be like, liberals, Democrats, conservatives, Republicans, we all would have gotten together and said, fuck no. Fuck no. You out.
So there's really no comparison we could have, because our country, like we said, was founded on a rejection of the monarchy, and it was written into our Constitution that no leader of our democracy could hold the office of president of the United States, the highest office in our country. They couldn't hold it for longer than two terms in the history of their life. So you get 8 years. That's it. So
which there's a whole other debate of like other people that get to stay forever, but that's a different conversation.
So the whole, I guess the adoration that the UK people have for the royal family and sort of this reverence they hold them in, it's just on a different level that we just can't really understand.
No, it's really very, very difficult.
And so then that segues into, we get the introduction of Meghan Markle into the royal family.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little confused, but also not confused by the UK's reaction, or seeming reaction to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like initially the public as a whole kind of liked her.
Yep.
They thought she was a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
She was down to earth. She was just super smiley and happy and polite. And they were like, she's kind of cool.
She's also like more of a commoner,
mm-hmm.
and she's also of mixed race. So there's a whole like representation that people are feeling they finally have. She seemed very well like received at first,
mm-hmm.
for sure.
And then the further we get into it, it's like I don't think it's necessarily the public that turned against her. It was the press. It was
mm-hmm.
the UK press, the paparazzi, the tabloids. They decided, and at this point, I don't know what role the royal family played or didn't play in the turn that the coverage of her took in the press.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where I can assume.
That's where it gets really interesting the more you watch.
But it's not super clear at this point through episode 3 what role the royal family played in that. But there is a turning point where all of a sudden it's like, we got to dig up dirt on Meghan. We're going to spin everything in a negative light.
It was after their Australian tour, I think they were talking about. I think that was it. Like basically, like everyone loved her. Like the first thing they ever did together. And then it was after that, just nothing but terrible
and they're
shit.
Like, she grew up on the wrong side of the tracks and she's divorced.
They said straight out of like Compton or something.
Yeah.
Like, excuse me?
Almost, in parentheses, almost.
Yeah, like, first of all, there's multiple layers to that statement that is just really racist and wrong. And the undertones of what you're trying to say, like all of like, there's so many things that is wrong. Because first of all, like, why are you acting like that? Why is that a bad thing? First of all, we can get into that. So what's it about Compton you're trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a whole, there's so much to that is just, like, the whole thing's just extremely racist.
Yeah. And so the coverage of her took a turn, and then the media just like started going at her, right? And so that, to me, opens up a conversation about how the media functions in the UK versus how it functions in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get into that, I just want to say really quickly that they did say in the episode 2 or 3, they were Meghan basically asked Harry, she's like, what is a royal expert? And she's like, they're saying that royal experts say blah, 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 blah. And she's like, what is a royal expert? How do you become a royal expert? What does that even mean? And Harry basically explained to her that it is a title given to certain people by the royal family and these people basically act as an extension of the PR team that works for the royal family. And these people are basically then they're given this title, and then they give information to the tabloids and are able to speak on certain things. And it gives that tabloid or that paper a little bit more of an air of legitimacy, that what they're printing is true or factual, right? And so all of it is just this manipulation by the royal family to get information out there the way that they want it, right? So these quote unquote royal experts, the general public may not necessarily know that these people are working on behalf of the royal family. When there's, a royal expert says that, this person, Meghan Markle, broke the protocol, or, she did XYZ wrong, according to whatever.
Well, I know he mentioned too that I thought he had said something along the lines of like, it's basically just a title that I didn't know if the royal family had given it, or if it was just something that you get that basically, like you said, it makes what you're saying more legitimate, but that it basically gives you free reign to say whatever you want, and it's more legitimate because you're a royal expert. But it was the way he had said it sounded like almost pretty much anybody could be a royal expert as long as they got that, however that title is given. Because I know because they have their own offices, like each royal, which they talk about that more. Like Harry and Meghan end up having their own office versus like William and Kate, and so they have their own stuff that's handled internally. So I didn't know if the royal experts work for those offices, or if it's more, because I know there is a definitely, then it does delve into the relationship between the media and them more later on. But yeah, I have to rewatch that clip because I thought he was saying more about like.
Well, I think when he says that anyone can be a royal expert, it means that there's no real qualifications you have to meet to be considered one, except that the PR branch of the royal family or whatever says that you are one.
It's just like, and then again, it just feeds into the whole thing of like half the stuff that's being said could be avoided if if people wanted it to be. So, some people, rather.
So then that kind of gets us into talking about the differences between the way that the tabloids and media and paparazzi function in the UK versus in the US. So, I mean, obviously, if you're a celebrity in the United States, there is a certain level of exposure that is expected that comes with the job, right? So, if you're if you're in LA, if you're in New York, if you're in Miami, and you go out to a nightclub or you go out to a very popular restaurant, like there's certain places that if you go there, you're going to get photos taken of you, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of places in this country that you can go where you might get recognized by some people there, but paparazzi are not following you, right?
Yeah.
And so you can have a little bit more of like a normal life, a little more anonymity. So it feels like the paparazzi are a little more contained, like geographically, I guess. In also the fact that like, where to expect them pretty much in terms of like, if I'm, when I'm going to red carpets, when I'm going to press events, when I'm going to certain things for work, I know that I'm going to be photographed. I signed up for that. I know that if I go to a certain restaurant, a certain club, whatever, I'm probably going to get photographed. Even just walking down, Rodeo Drive, going shopping, whatever, I might get photographed. But there's a little bit, I feel like a little more separation to an extent between the celebrities and the paparazzi. It's a little bit more like the celebrities, they can talk to the paparazzi if they want to. It's like, how are y'all? Having a good day? Whatever. They can kind of try to be cordial with them so that the paparazzi maybe feel less inclined to like rush them and, put them in like dangerous positions, where they're chasing them or whatever. But I feel like in the UK, there's no boundary almost. There's no limit to what the paparazzi will do or, are allowed to do to get the photo and the footage that they want.
Yeah, but I mean, even in like because I mean, she talks about it and because she talked about when she was in Canada and how everybody was just stalking her all the time, basically, and how, like, it seems like even with, I think a picture of the royal family, like, if you get a picture of a member of the royal family, it's worth so much money globally versus if you get a picture of Kim Kardashian, it's really only worth something here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's just, like, I don't know. I mean, because, I think we function differently here, but I think, too, like, with Harry and Meghan being here now, I haven't heard them talk much about it, but I'm like, I would imagine the paparazzi is probably just as horrible because they're still those tabloids that want to print those bad stories, even in the UK. Like, they're going to pay money for that. Like, a fuck ton of money. I mean, they're just such head lining, like just the royal family in general. It seems like no matter where they go, those fuckers find them. Versus like celebrities here, you can pretty much expect the paparazzi, like you were saying in LA, pretty much is the worst hub of it. But like a member of the royal family, if it's like if they find out where you are, they coming. You could be in fucking Antarctica, and I bet you're gonna be able to find somebody's paying to send some people after you. Like that's just how they're just constantly. It seems like they're just constantly sending hounds out.
So
no matter what.
So would that mean it's not necessarily that? I guess that comes back to it's not that the paparazzi here are different than the paparazzi in the UK. It's that the people that they're trying to get photos of, that's the difference. And like we've already said, there's a difference between being an A-list celebrity and the treatment you get from anyone, much less paparazzi, versus being royalty and the treatment you get.
Yeah. It seems just like I'm like, she was already an actress, and she never experienced anything like that in her life. So I just think that it just shows like how much pressure globally being a member of that family, like how much pressure it is.
But also, yeah, it's a smaller group of people, right? It's more like a club, if you will.
Yeah.
There's a lot of actors. There's a lot of actresses. There's a lot of A, B, C list celebrities that might get, papped versus there's only so many members of the royal family. And even then, there's only so many that people actually care about to see photos of.
Yeah, I think that one thing that they had said, and I don't know if this was in episode 1 through 3, I think that it was, is that they said that like the British media and the tabloids, they influence like people's opinions a lot within the UK. And I think that that's just, we're just so different. Like UK people and American people, we are so different because we are just immediately, like, especially now, so distrustful of all that shit. Like the second, that's half the reason that some people probably are still like into the Kanye thing, because they're just distrustful of all the sources that are covering what he's saying. That there's some people are just assuming that they're blowing out of proportion, or some people like, we are so of the mindset of, you're putting this in front of my face, so I clearly need to be looking at something else, because anything you're telling me is going on, something bigger is happening that you're trying to keep from me. Like that's just our way of thinking. And I think that we try, like, it's just been ingrained that I'm not going to be manipulated by these things. We still are, but it's just I guess how our thoughts work. But within the UK, it seemed like the impression to me that I got was the media can heavily, it just influenced that public opinion of change, I guess, where it's like she was well received at first and people loved her. And then the media is like, no. And then all of a sudden, the public is like, she's a bitch.
I think, too, that a little bit comes back to the founding of our country. I mean, there's a reason we rebelled against England, and there's a reason we decided that these are the rules we're going to take up in our Constitution of what's going to guide the foundation of our society and our government. And one of those is freedom of the press, that the press, to a degree, can print and say anything factual, anything opinionated, and they will not face legal consequences for that, right? So, and that kind of stems from the idea of like if a ruler, if the president, if the king, whatever, is doing something wrong or corrupt, we should be the watchdogs. The press should be able to call it out and say and tell the people the truth, right? And so I think from our foundation, and obviously this has changed a little bit, but from the beginning, from the onset of our country, it was, the press served as the watchdog for society. We trust that these sources are going to be unbiased and report the facts of what happened, right? And so that automatically, obviously, again, it has changed, but that sets a difference between how we view the press and how the UK views the press and the function of the press, right? Because in the UK, it feels like, and we've already been told in this documentary, the function of the press is to not report the facts and give people unbiased news. It is to sway people's opinions and to make them think what you want them to think. It's a propaganda machine, right? And again, to some extent, some of our media has evolved into that, but I feel like not as strong of a degree.
I think we just have a lot more options.
Yes. That is true. We do have like, there are certain publications where it's like, this is news. There's certain publications where it's like, this is tabloid, like gossip mag, right? And there's some that are kind of in between. And then it's up to you to kind of decide. But I think that our current distrust of a lot of media has evolved due to the fact that originally we did trust them and we were exposed to more or less unbiased sources of information, right?
Yeah.
And so when that starts to change, we're like, well, hold up now.
Yeah.
I know what's happening versus in the UK.
I think, yeah, I mean, our whole identity is breaking away from that. And so I think that's another reason that really Americans kind of just opened up their arms to Harry and Meghan. Like, we're very, like, a lot of people are very receptive and they're like, I don't blame you, or, that's just ridiculous. And I think that a lot of that is because, we don't hold that adoration for the royal family. So, like, we aren't really afraid to disrespect them if it comes across as disrespect, because we're very much like, no, that's just wrong and you're an asshole. That's just the end of the discussion. Because we weren't raised and we aren't a part of a culture that really just...
We don't think that they shit gold.
Yeah, we're just like, you're just people, and not disrespecting them, or not even disrespecting that culture. It's just that's why we're so much more like receptive to them, and we like them, and we're like, come on over, whatever, because we're just like, we literally look at the British media and we're like, y'all are trash. Well, our media, but the thing is, our media is trash too. But the difference is that we're like so open about it seems like, versus we're just like, yeah, I mean, we kind of just know that half of the shit that people say is not true. And we just are comfortable with that. And I think that it's just our perception of the media versus maybe people in the UK. And I don't know that for a fact. I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of people online that are British, like, like influencers or whatever, say things about her that are fine and they like her. But it just is like, I don't know how much is like the actual British, like, the citizens and their opinions versus just the tabloids. And, I don't know. I don't live there.
It's kind of like a chicken and egg scenario of what came first. Was it the people disapproving of Meghan and then the coverage started to skew that way? Or was it the coverage started to skew that way and then the people started to believe that?
I definitely feel like the media, they changed, which changed the public. I do not think it was the other way around. And I mean, when you watch the rest, I think you'll probably agree, because it's just like,
yeah, I mean, insane. My initial thought watching it was like, why do people hate her?
I don't get it. It's so ridiculous.
And the only conclusion I can come to, because I mean, even before watching this, the first 3 episodes, I was of the opinion that her as a person, that she was friendly and warm and a nice person.
I asked you who you thought the better hugger was, her or Kate.
Yeah.
Meghan.
Yeah. And that she is like a genuine, like, if you met her, she would actually care to get to know you and ask you questions and remember your answers, and she would remember your name the next time you met her. Like that kind of person, and that she actually does care. And that, and throughout the first 3 episodes, you see where she's philanthropic, like that. Even before she met Harry, that was a lot of her passion projects, is philanthropy and charity and, public service and giving back and stuff like that. So when you have somebody like that who is so charity minded and so warm and affectionate and cares about people, do you not want that in, somebody who's part of your royal family?
Well, that's like, it delves more into that a little bit later. And it is like, let me put it this way. There really wasn't a lot of drama besides like the press in the first 3 episodes. When you move on, that's when the tea's getting spilled.
About the royal family's involvement a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, because at first I was like, oh, what does the royal family need to be upset about so far with this? Nothing. And there's really nothing that's still been said that's that big of a secret. But yeah, you definitely get more. That's where the toxicness comes in that we were making a joke about, of like, oh, distrustful relationships or bad relationships. Yeah, it definitely goes more into that. So that we'll cover more of that and next week. Yeah, finally.
And thinking about why people don't like her, the only thing I can come up with is that the racism element is a huge part of it. Is it the racism? Is it that she's American? Is it a combination of both? Like, I don't know, but to me, that's the only thing I can think of. And they do go into that a little bit more in I think it's episode 3.
Yeah.
They talk about kind of like the history of slavery in the UK, and the role that and how it kind of is glossed over, and they don't really look too much into it or talk about it, and they kind of want to forget about it,
which is ironic because of how everybody is always in America's business and trying to remind us of our history when everyone just ignores the fact that we're all European and came from Europe, and all of how we functioned as a society was just a carbon copy of how Europe did it. So the only reason that it wasn't
Americans that started slavery in the United States before it was the United States. It was England, and it was Europeans and European settlers.
So it's like, it's
not saying that we don't have any blame in continuing that legacy. 100%. Not saying that at all.
No, but it's also like, let's not act like we broke away from England, sure, but we still came from there.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that instituted those practices. But to this day, it's just ironic, like, everything's glossed over because they were different and they had all that shit happening on islands. And America was different because we just had it in our backyard. And that's like the big difference, is that because they didn't have to look at it, they don't have to talk about it. When, oh no, you're the one that actually instituted this to begin with. So.
And you have a long history of, racism within your society
to this day.
Yeah. And so that sort of element to it, they like I said, they do go into that in episode 3. And then again, that's the only thing that I can really think of that plays such a large part in why the royal family just decided to hate her.
I think that she's just the scapegoat. And that it goes more into that in the next episodes. But if I have to boil it down to like what my current opinion is, she is just a person that is easy to attack because she's American, because she's she's a mixed race. They use her because there's such headline grabbing things that they can say about her, so other people don't get talked about.
She's a distraction.
She's exactly what we don't trust the media about. That's why we're like, why are you distracting us?
Hey, look over here at this thing, and this is a juicy little bit of gossip and whatever, while other things are going on over here.
Harry goes into more detail, too, about how the media functions with the royal family, and he talks a lot about it, so it's fucked up, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's pretty fucking horrible.
That, which they included this in some of like the promotional like little trailers or whatever, clip sound bites. But there's a soundbite of Meghan saying, we weren't thrown to the wolves, we were fed to the wolves. Which is, to me, implying like, when you throw someone to the wolves, it's kind of like just happenstance. You sort of like push them out there and let them sink or swim on their own. They kind of figure it out. You don't really use anything to kind of guide them or help them. Versus being fed to the wolves, you are intentionally like dangling them and using them as a way to satiate like this animal that is going to come for you, if you don't.
Yeah. It's the tea begins. You'll start watching the next 3 and you're going to be like, oh my God.
I actually wanted to continue watching. And I was like, no, I have to stop at episode 3. But I have to stop. I want to keep going.
Well, that's what we'll cover next week.
Yeah.
Also, Christmas decorations, they will be gone.
Oh, yeah. So this will go up the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
I think. So late Merry Christmas, early Happy New Year, everybody.
Merry late
happy
holidays, happy Yuletide, New Year, whatever.
Solstice.
Yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much it for now.
Yeah.
Gotta delve into it a little bit. We'll be able to, the thoughts will be juicier next week because we get to go, oh yeah, because it goes pretty much like, oh damn, there's the tea. Not saying we want the tea, but like, let's just be real. It's in the last 3.
I want the tea.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it, guys. So
some housekeeping. We are getting very close to 100 subscribers on YouTube, which is very exciting.
Even though no one likes us.
Yeah, people leave rude comments, but you know what? I like to reframe it as normal people who are tapping the like button or consuming and viewing our content. They are just like you and I, where we aren't necessarily commenting on things a lot. So the people that do comment are just really either super love us or they just super hate us.
They super hate us.
Super hate us. The majority of people just don't comment that much.
Yeah, the majority of people don't. People that do, most just tell us to die, go to hell, or we're just dumb white women, or we're liberals, which we're not actually, which is funny.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever. None of your business what I am. I don't really think I'm anything, so I don't fit in. I'm different.
I'm a pick me girl.
I'm like other voters.
But so, yeah, we are very close to 100 subscribers on YouTube. So we really want to do some like giveaways, like with some merch and stuff. For, you know, when we hit certain milestones. And for some people, 100 subscribers on YouTube may not seem like a lot, but that is 10% of our way to hitting 1,000. Right?
Yeah.
Is that how math works?
Fuck. You're the know-it-all. I don't know.
I think it is. So when you think about actually like 100 people trying to like fit in this room to watch us as we're recording, they wouldn't fit in this room. So
yeah,
like 100 people is actually like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting either way, especially when you start off with 0. So.
Yeah. So we want to do a giveaway. So we need to figure out how we're going to do that. So be on the lookout for some instructions on how you can get something. So I'm thinking we're probably going to give away at least like a t-shirt, maybe like a mug or something.
We'll figure it out.
We'll keep y'all posted on the details, but we definitely want to do a 100 subscriber giveaway.
Yay, it'll be fun.
Super fun. And this will be like...
So that's your cue too, because the only way you're going to get it is if you subscribe. So that's going to be a no-brainer.
Yeah, you definitely have to be subscribed. And it'll be something like some unique merch that we're probably going to have very limited runs of. You know, it could be like a 1 of 1. It could be
1 of 1.
You know, 1 of 3 if we get one for you and I and this other person. So
who knows?
You can match.
Fun. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. And you can do that literally on all platforms. So you should, because we post across everything. Mm-hmm. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, all the main ones for like video. When it comes to audio, we post everywhere you can even think to listen to a podcast.
Yes.
So, and it goes up the day before. So just make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching. Otherwise, you might miss out on us. And that's
a real tragedy.
That's
the real tragedy.
It is, because we're just like so clearly so great.
We're so great. You can really just like see it in Jessica's eyes.
Yeah, you can see it in my eyes how I clearly think I'm the shit, which is like, bro, chill out. But anyway,
the ego on this one.
I know. Someone said I was cunty with a K, just so he wouldn't get flagged, which I respect. I mean, not really, because he's dumb, but whatever. It's funny. Anyway, guess we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.